People who have actually had sex with a step relative. What was the aftermath? Not me, but my coworker got his nephew a job with our company to help straighten him out and let him live with him. A few months later he starts talking about how he's going to be a granddad cause his 18Y/0 daughter who lives at home is pregnant. We later found out his nephew was banging his daughter on the regular and was the father of his grandbaby. Nephew got fired for failing a drug test not even 6 months into the gig. Pretty sure he ended up getting kicked out of their house too shortly thereafter. Not me, but someone I was friends, we'll call her Sarah, with in high school. Sarah's half brother, we'll call him Alan, passed away, and everyone gathered for the funeral. This turned into an extensive family reunion. Sarah found herself interested in the half brother's other half brother, we'll call him Dan. Dan and Alan shared the same mom, while Alan and Sarah shared the same dad. Sarah and Dan were not related, but she got a lot of shit for it. She ended up moving out of the state to be with him, and has happily been with him for 7 years now. Alright, here we go. So, I meet girl, meet her mom and dad. The girl and I have sex, and ate for several months. She gets pregnant. I join the Navy to support my new family. I leave for boot camp, and she starts sleeping around. So we break up. During this time her mom goes crazy. Her dad leaves her mom. He then starts seeing my mom. They get married. Boom. My ex is now my stepsister and my son is now my nephew. Welcome to West Virginia, y'all. Is that what they call a mountain mama over there? The outcome was dramatic and incredibly tragic. I had a colleague once who drunkenly confessed to sleeping with her stepbrother. Eventually it developed into a serious relationship. Her parents got to know and desperately tried to get them to break up. Colleague ended up dating her stepbro in secret. It's an open secret in the office at this point. Awkward. Because the stepdad was also in upper management. Anyway, her parents find out again and try to get them to break up a second time. It all gets rather public and ugly and quite embarrassing for her mom and stepdad, who are now senior figures in the industry running their own company. Colleague tells us that she's been given ultimatums from her mum. Doesn't describe what they are. Suddenly, she stops showing up to work and emails her resignation. She tells ours that she's moving to the US to find some peace. Colleague also texts some folk at work to tell them that she's had enough of the drama and moving away. A few weeks pass and there's no news from her until her stepbro/boyfriend starts contacting all her work friends. I wasn't contacted, but some of my teammates were. Stepbro is desperately trying to get in touch with her. She's broken up with him via text. He wants to know if anyone's heard from her. He doesn't believe that she now lives in the US and that she'd go without telling him. Everyone writes him off as a guy who couldn't handle the rejection until he goes to the police and files a missing persons case. Police actually made a few inquiries, to everyone's surprise. It doesn't happen often because they usually jaff. This is still a developing country after all. In the end the cops write the stepbro off as a lovesick loon and everything settles down. For a while at least, stepbro has gone crazy, now claiming that he thinks something bad happened to her. Says he's fallen out with his parents over it. No one at work wants to get involved in this family drama, especially since the parents are important people. Things die down again until they don't. Fast forward 2 years and no one's heard from our colleague until the cops come calling. They've arrested her mom's chauffeur on an unrelated charge and he confesses to murdering our colleague. Even leads them to the body. He doesn't however reveal a motive. He must have been stalking her, think the police, until they investigate further. Our colleague never went to the US. Turns out the emails she sent weren't from her either. They were sent after her death. The texts, the emails and the breakup were all from her mom. She covered her tracks after she orchestrated the murder of her own daughter, all because she wouldn't stop dating her stepbrother and was going to marry him. Sorry for the bad grammar. English isn't my first language. I'd forgotten some details. The colleague's mum always had a strange relationship with her daughter. At social events she often claimed to be her sister. Though everyone knew it wasn't true. I think BO dad was also involved in the murder somehow. The whole thing was one giant clusterduck. Technically my step cousin. My mom married his uncle. We met as adults and hooked up quickly after meeting. We're married now. Whenever someone asks how we met, I just tell them he's my cousin. My parents used to be step siblings. My mom was 6. Dad was 12 when my mom's mom married my dad's dad. My dad lived with his mom primarily though, and they never spent much time together. I think my grandparents were married for 6 to 10 years or something like that before they divorced. When my mom was about 20, dad was 26, and he asked her out. They've been married for like 35 years. The complicated bit is that I have an aunt that was born from the marriage of my maternal grandmother and paternal grandfather. So my parents share a half sibling. But they are no longer step siblings. Edit. Rephrased a sentence for clarity. Also, guys, there are plenty of other southern hillbilly ass states aside from Alabama. Unless I'm missing a reference to something. That being said, every generation beneath my great grandparents on both sides has been born and raised in CA. Although funnily enough, my aunt did move to a southern state when she got married. I like to joke that she complicates the family tree, so they kicked her out. My dad was banging my mom's sister and I have a couple of cousin brothers to show for it. Yes, Florida. I knew a girl in high school whose best friend's mom married her dad. Then the best friend and dad were caught ducking, and it had been a whole thing. Both of them were really gross. My sister gave our stepbrother a blowjob on one end of our wraparound couch, with our grandmother asleep on the other end. Spoiler alert, she woke up. We had some ducked up family dynamics. Edit. I've answered these in the comments, but for anyone who doesn't feel like scrolling. What happened when she woke up? My grandmom woke up mid-job, smacked my sister on the back of the head with her slipper. They sprung apart and ran away without saying a word. And the next morning everyone just acted like nothing ever happened. As far as I know, my grandmother never said a word about it to anyone. Where was I? I was in bed, sneakily reading Eragon and none the wiser, until my sister told me the next morning. I think these two instances perfectly encapsulate who we both were as a person, lol, and still are tbh. My mother passed away, so my brother and I moved in with my father, stepmother and stepsister. My parents had a brutal divorce, so we were not very close to them. In fact, we didn't see my father for years. Fast forward, my brother, stepsister, stepbrother and I would play lights out as teenagers. Basically, turn the lights out and start beating the shit out of each other with pillows or anything we could find. I know it sounds like a sick game. Later, when we all played and wondered why I was not getting my hair pulled or punched, I turned on the lights and found my brother and stepsister making out. We stopped playing lights out, but my brother and sister were secretly seeing each until my stepmother found out. Edit. Grandma. A guy I knew, while we were both early teens, had a huge crush on a girl who was a close friend of his family. His parents were church friends with her parents. Then, her parents both died in a car accident, and his parents had agreed to adopt her if such an incident were ever to occur. His mom was kinda weird and made him start calling her sister, and none of his family knew he was head over heels in love with this girl, or if they suspected a crush they pretended not to. What they for sure didn't know, because his parents well disowned him, was that by high school, they were secretly banging almost every night. I lost touch with them during high school, and I want to know what ended up happening with them so badly it drives me crazy to think about. Edit. To the million people asking me to track them down now. I tried years ago, but literally the only thing I have to go off of is his name. We only hung out for a few years, and it was because my mom and his mom were work friends who hung out outside of work a lot during that time. I don't know what school he went to or what church they went to. I don't remember his school friends' names. I'm only about 70% sure I'm even remembering the girl's name correctly. The only avenue I could think of exploring is asking my mom what her former coworker's name is, or if she remembers where they moved to. But that's a really weird question to bring up 15 years later, so I don't really plan on going that route. I just gave his name another search. But it's a fairly common name, and without more to go off of it's sort of impossible to find a match on social media. Sorry to disappoint. My friend did it, and now everyone calls him step bro at school. My uncle married his stepsister when they were teenagers. They had 4 kids together and divorced. Years later my dad married her. She was his stepsister and younger brother's ex-wife. My cousins became my step-siblings. Uncle lived around the corner. Her kids did not like being told what to do by their uncle. My dad always felt like she treated me and my sister poorly. My grandma threatened to disown my dad several times for marrying her. They were together for about a year before stepmom couldn't handle dad's drinking anymore, and he said he was sick of her kids disrespecting him and her not treating my sister and me good enough. We moved out, but they stayed married for over 10 years. Cousin/step siblings weren't as close with us after that, and my sister and I were kinda considered black sheep of the family. Too bad. I liked being around my cousins so much, and I thought my aunt/stepmom was cool. I was like 10 to 11 at the time though. I can't imagine what those two were thinking when they got together in the first place. Whole thing was confusing to say the least. My best friend had sex with his stepsister. She fell in love, since it was her first time and he didn't. She then asked him to formally date her, to which he refused and ghosted her. Moved out of the city. She entered a deep depression and they haven't spoken in years. Well, we had sex 2 times. She got pregnant. We tried to work it out. It didn't go well. She left to a different state and then threatened to come get our daughter. I got a lawyer and filed for custody. She never responded, and I won by default. I haven't heard from her since my daughter was 8 months old. That was over 4 years ago now. Edit. Word. My stepbrother is also my brother-in-law. He married my sister and they have 2 kids. This isn't a good story though. They were dating before our dad and his mom started dating. So we all met as adults. And I knew him originally as my sister's boyfriend. And then it got weird on paper, cause our parents married. Our parents got remarried later in life, when we were already grown adults. We are both only children, so having siblings was a new experience for us. But we wanted it to work, if only for the family's sake, in an effort to grow closer. We decided to go drinking one night. A few months after we met for the first time, she ended up crashing at my place. I offered to take the couch and give her the bed, but she insisted we sleep together in that weird feet to head setup. My drunk ass promptly went to sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night to find us spooning, and me with a serious erection poking her ass. I froze. I didn't know how I got there, what was going on, or how I was going to get out of this gracefully. I had just decided to extricate myself slowly in the hopes that I didn't wake her. When it happened, wiggle wiggle, she started wiggling her ass against me. On instinct, I started bucking. Tap tap, wiggle wiggle tap tap. There was only one way to go from there. We went out that night intending to become closer. Mission accomplished. We ducked a few times a week for 5 to 6 months before we both met other people. In that time we became very close, telling each other our fears, secrets, and generally being what you think of as brother and sister. Except for that other thing. Friends have remarked about how close we are, especially for how short a time it's been. Turns out, there's a shortcut for that. You'd think that would be the end of the story. But instead of going our separate ways with the new people in our lives, we ended up realizing we had fallen hard for each other. Now we are dating and trying to figure out how to tell our parents, family, and friends. Might not have that problem for too much longer though. The last time her dad came into the living room where we were hanging out. Well, first he knocked. Had a coworker who was sleeping with his stepsister. Both of them were already in college when their parents met and got married. Pretty sure it lasted a while, with them all living in the same house. Eventually got caught by one of the parents, which ultimately led to the parents separating. Hooked up with dad's girlfriend's daughter before they married. Her mom found out. All she said was, well, I'm glad you two got it out of your system before you're related. Anyways, it was boring and pointless. The whole naughtiness of it was the best part. Edit. Punctuation. Because I'm worried about what you people will think of me. Not me, but my older brother. 4 years. The story was he got the clap from this older woman who took his virginity. A month ago he told me the truth. He got the clap from our stepsister, who at one point tried to sleep with me too. My parents are stepsister brother. My husband's brother secretly dated their stepsister. Only my husband knew about it. Despite him telling his brother that it was a bad idea, he still pursued the relationship. They had to confess to the family because she unexpectedly got pregnant. Their mom was upset and disappointed, but said she'd support their decision to be in a relationship and start their own family. The father, however, could not get on board and pressured his daughter to get an abortion and to end the relationship. They still ended up together and had the baby. A few years later, they both cheated on each other and ended the relationship. Family gatherings are super awkward with my husband's side of the family. Edit, I should add, when they became step siblings. She was 10 and he was 13. They started dating when she was 23. A girl I worked with had, in my opinion, a really weird situation. Her dad was dating a woman and she was dating the woman's son. All living under the same roof too. I believe they broke up, and it got pretty toxic as they kept trying to make their step sibling jealous by bringing home randoms to sleep with. Imagine explaining that one to the people you're bringing around. This thread is like a car accident. I really don't want to see what people say, but I also can't help but to be curious. We fixed the washing machine so she wouldn't get stuck anymore. After we finished, my stepsister really did help me with my math homework. Double win. Absolutely nothing. We were in our 20s when our parents got married, got drunk one night years later, smashed, went about our business. We'd hook up every once in a while afterwards, but just kinda stopped. No fanfare, no drama, and were still cool. Fun while it lasted. 10/10ths would hit again. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.